Bible Stories with Miss Cortney. Episode 6, Feeding 5,000. Hi friends, I'm Miss Cortney and I am so glad you're here. You're watching episode 6 of Bible Stories with Miss Cortney. If you haven't watched the first 5 yet, you want to pause the video right now, go back, watch those, and then come back and watch this one. So far, we've learned that God's people needed a king, and they were waiting and expecting a king that would be strong and defeat their enemies in battle. The king that God sent was his son Jesus, but he wasn't a king like they were expecting. Do you remember what was different about Jesus? That's right. Jesus was strong because he loved God and he loved others, and he showed all of the people how to do the same. So he didn't go into battle and fight, but he loved, and that is what made him strong. We also met John the Baptist, who was going around and teaching people about God and then baptizing them. He even baptized Jesus. Then we met Jesus' disciples. He had 12 of them. Do you remember what that word disciple means? That's right. Those are his friends that followed him around to learn more about God and loving others. And that's not even all we've learned. We also learned that Jesus was a teacher and he loved teaching people by telling them stories. We learned that even when things are tough and even when life is sad, God is always with us. Jesus also taught us with his stories that God loves us and he always will, no matter what. And we learned that if we love God and love others, then that makes us shine bright like a light for everyone to see. Last week, we read about a big, angry storm that Jesus and his disciples were in while they were in the boat. Do you remember how the disciples were feeling? That's right, they were so scared. And what did they do when they were scared? That's right, they went to Jesus, and Jesus calmed the storm. And we learned that it's okay for us to be scared sometimes. And when we're scared, just like the disciples, we can go to Jesus, and Jesus teaches us how to pray. This week, we are going to read about how Jesus fed 5,000 people. 5,000. That is a lot of people. Let's read. Jesus and his disciples had been traveling and teaching, helping and healing. One day, though, they needed to escape the crowds and rest. They set off across the lake, looking for a quiet spot. But when they reached the other side of the lake, they saw a huge crowd of people waiting for them. There were thousands of people. What do you think Jesus did after seeing all those people? Jesus could have turned around or told everyone to go home, but he looked out at his followers. He loved them and he wanted to help them. Jesus spent the whole day teaching and helping the enormous crowd. When evening came, everyone was hungry. There's no food here, the disciples said to Jesus. Let's send everyone home. Why don't you feed them? Jesus said. That's impossible, they said. How on earth could we buy food for all of these people? Show me what you have, Jesus said. Well, all they had was one small meal from one small boy. Just 5 loaves and 2 fish. One tiny picnic for such an enormous crowd? How ridiculous! What do you think Jesus is going to do? But Jesus gave thanks to God and broke the bread and fish into pieces. Jesus handed the food to the disciples and told them to pass it out. So off they went, thinking this isn't nearly enough. Any minute now, we'll definitely run out. But they didn't. No matter how much food they gave away, they still had more. And everyone ate until they couldn't even manage another crumb. How do you think the people felt as the disciples were handing out the food? When the disciples had picked up all the leftovers, they had 12 full baskets. Jesus had given the people even more than they needed. Night was coming, so Jesus sent the crowds and the disciples home. But he went into the hills to pray. What do you think Jesus prayed about? Wow, I love that story. Jesus teaches us that there's always enough to share. Jesus knew that the food that the small boy had was enough to share with all of those people. The disciples saw it and they thought, there's no way that's enough food to share with all those people. But Jesus saw all the hungry people and he knew there's always enough to share. So he did, and he had the disciples help too. And did they have enough food? Yes, they had enough food for everyone to eat. And when they were done, they even had 12 baskets left over so the disciples could eat too. Jesus teaches us that there's always enough to share when you see someone in need. It could be that they need food or clothing or toys or books or just a hug. And if we all share with someone we see that's in need, pretty soon there won't be any more people who don't have what they need. And I know that would make God very, very happy. So talk to your parents and see what you have that you could share with others. And you can even ask your parents what they have that they could share with others too. Until next time, remember that you are a child of God. And that means that God loves you so very much. And God is always with you. And God made you strong to love others too. Bye, friends. See you next time.